a university with a high degree of relevance and quality along its fourfold functions: instruction, research, extension, and production. Guided with the philosophy Education for All and its vision to become an ASEAN Premier State University in 2020, PSU crafted its 5-year strategic development plan with a top level management, which serves as the compass enabling PSU to track the right direction towards the fulfillment of its vision. With its core values accountability and transparency, credibility and integrity, competence and commitment to achieve, excellence in service delivery, social and environmental responsiveness, and spirituality, each member of the PSU community is formed to embody the ideals, the spirit, and the wisdom expected of every PSU unit. PSU, since its inception in 1979, has come a long way. With 9 campuses and 2 graduate students, it has proven as an institution its mark of excellence in producing top caliber graduates who are helping in nation building. With at least 25,000 students, it offers 38 academic programs and has produced numerous globally competent graduates since the beginning of its operation. With a total of 563 faculty members and 259 non-teaching staff, PSU commits itself to form graduates who exceed the requirements of the industry they serve, as they bear within the banner of excellence PSU has exemplified as a culture. But how does PSU ensure quality along its operations and outcomes? In the year 2015, through the creation of the Quality Assurance Office, PSU took the journey of ISO certification, which placed harmony and synchronization to the services and operations rendered in all its academic units. The ISO certification served as the tool of the university to better the educational services for the students, as they are the primary stakeholders of the institution. In 2016, PSU was cited as the first SUC in the Philippines to have ISO 9001-2015 certification by an internationally recognized accrediting body. And in 2017, PSU became multi-campus ISO certified. And throughout the journey of PSU carrying the ISO 9001-2015 certification, the university was awarded by the accrediting agency of chartered colleges and universities of the Philippines as one of the 5 higher educational institutions in the country with the best internal quality assurance unit. Endorsed by the Commission on Higher Education, PSU is also now Institutional Sustainability Assessment or ISA certified. This, another quality assurance mechanism, further promotes a culture of excellence in implementing an established internal quality assurance system and undergoing institutional assessment. Moreover, to strengthen quality assurance in the university in the field of instruction, outcomes-based education was introduced, marking a shift in academic offerings to ascertain the production of graduates who truly possess skills which make them marketable in their chosen profession. In terms of academic program offerings, 83% of all PSU programs have been accredited by ACO and are continuously being subjected for higher levels of accreditation. Recently, PSU has been awarded by ACO as a Level 2 institutionally accredited university and garnered the highest point for that level, which gives added value to buttress the culture of quality. Adding to the factors that put academic excellence in PSU, the university was also granted Centers of Excellence in Bachelor of Elementary Education and Bachelor of Secondary Education of Bayambang Campus.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Um, as of now, we have 20 participants via Zoom, and we are also going live on Facebook. So we already have 48 viewers in our Facebook official Facebook page. So good morning. I am glad to welcome all of you in today's online workshop to be conducted by the Admission and Guidance Services Office of Pangasinan State University. By the way, I am Ashley Gail Tuazon, and I will be your host for today. Pangasinan State University, commonly referred to as PSU, is a state university in the Philippines notable for its many locations throughout the province of Pangasinan. It is mandated to provide advanced instruction in the arts, agricultural, and natural sciences, as well as in technological and professional fields. Today, we will be presenting the basic counseling skills and ethical standards to be facilitated by Ms. Beverly Fernandez, RGC. If you have any question during the presentation, please type them into the question box of your Zoom control panel or in the comment section since as what I've said earlier, we are also going live via our official Facebook page. Questions will be entertained after the workshop. Also, a gentle reminder to please stay on mute all throughout the presentation. E-certificates will also be provided together with a link of the evaluation form at the end of the training, so please stay with us all throughout. To officially start the program, we begin with a prayer to be followed by the Philippine National Anthem and Pangasinan State University hymn. Okay, so um, before we before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our participants from all over the country. So we have participants from Cebu, from St. Louis University, Baguio City, from Urdaneta City, from University of Visayas, Virgen Milagrosa University Foundation, Aquinas School, San Juan City, local government unit of Pura Tarlac, Bunglas NHS Schools Division of Iloilo. We also have participants from Zamboanga del Norte, um, from Antipolo, from PMA Baguio, from University of Rizal System. So good morning again. Good morning, everyone. And we are truly overwhelmed, and we are truly overwhelmed for the number of participants for today's workshop. So our activity for today is all about basic counseling skills and ethical standards. Counseling is the facilitation of assistance and guidance in resolving personal, social, or psychological problems and difficulties, which is done with a professional counselor. The main goal of this online workshop is for you to be able to develop knowledge and skills in delivering counseling services and to demonstrate knowledge of relevant ethical principles and codes related to counseling. To gear us up with a better understanding of the counseling profession, we will now turn the time over to our facilitator. Let me introduce her first. Our facilitator took up Bachelor of Science in Psychology at St. Louis University, Baguio City, and graduated as cum laude. She is also a graduate of Master of Arts in Education, major in Guidance and Counseling of Pangasinan State University, School of Advanced Studies. She is currently enrolled at Philippine Normal University, taking up a PhD in counseling. She is also a registered professional teacher, a registered psychometrician, and a registered guidance counselor. At present, she is employed at Pangasinan State University. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us give an enthusiastic welcome for the guidance counselor of PSU-Lingayen campus, Miss Beverly Fernandez.
Wow, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Ma'am Bev.
Good morning. Okay, so just like what Ma'am Ash said, we were actually kind of overwhelmed with the response on your interest to join our. Actually, to give you, a short background lang of our workshop. Supposedly, this was originally formatted in a workshop form. Ayun. But when we released the registration link, ayun, there was, an overwhelming number of those who are interested to join. So we were originally planning to limit the number of participants in a workshop type ng 20 to 25 lang. And that form would, we will be providing answer sheets, definitely workshops, applications, case studies, and practical application then, which definitely are supervised by uh, licensed counselor, no? So that the new counselors will also be supervised nga by professional. But we need to tweak the presentation and make it more palatable big big number of participants. However, if you're still very much interested in joining the workshop, we will follow our Facebook page, additional guidance, documentation, and then a workshop type of learning series such as basic counseling, supervised, and then we will also be conducting SFBT workshop and CBT. So for future workshops that you are interested to join in, please follow our Facebook page and join us on our guidance learning series. All right. So without further ado, let's start our workshop. Just gentle reminders before we start. I suggest siguro, no, if since recognize that you are currently in a national community, medyo ano na, parang medyo vast yung idea siguro na yon. But try to recognize that, we are in a one community right now, and you're in a learning community, and for you to better appreciate that, in order for you to better learn from, this 1.5 hour of uh learning activity, just be present. Yeah, so that's one gentle reminder. Just be present. Just allow yourself to be with the community and to learn from it, and perhaps, you can also join us with an open mind. And also, I encourage you to be a mindful participant. Okay, so when we say mindful participant, I may be raising some questions later on. So it's not only you who will be throwing questions to me, but I will be asking you some questions later on. So yeah, I encourage you not to unmute. That will, kind of be chaotic, but let's maximize the use of our chat box. We will be monitoring your questions, your answers on our chat box, both in our Zoom link, and since we're live streamed in Facebook, uh, we will also check on your answers via Facebook. Okay, so again, we're a virtual community, and mindful participation. All right, so let's start. Okay, so we will be talking about basic counseling skills, but definitely before we talk about the basic counseling skills, first, of the essential characteristics that one counselor must possess. And I'm very sure, you're very familiar with this acronym. With this acronym, it's K-SAVE. Okay, dati K-SAV. Okay, so when we say K-SAVE, as a counselor, you have to have, counseling knowledge. You have to be very equipped with yung foundations, okay, which we will have around later on. High level lang, not really very specific, not really specific background of each of the five forces of counseling, but just a little refresher and review for you. Okay, so that's the first one, no? If you're into counseling, if your career is into counseling, then your knowledge, dapat meron ka ng very strong foundation na kapag sinabing deterministic, okay? Uh, Parang meron ka ng cognitive map, no? Na pag sinabing deterministic, na pag sinabing freedom, na pag sinabing meaning, na pag sinabing choice, okay? That you already are very familiar on which wave, what approach, what specific techniques fall under doon. Okay? If not yet, no? If not yet, if those words are still not quite familiar to you, then you have to start with letter K muna, right? You have to familiarize yourself first with the foundation. So yun yung foundation, yung knowledge mo as a counselor. Okay, which we will have an overview a little later. Next one, let's talk about S. So when we say S, skills. Okay, so which we will actually, yun nga yung objective ng learning series, learning activity na to, which is to give you a refresher of what are the basic counseling skills. Okay. All right. Next, attitude. Okay. So when we say attitude, what is your attitude as a counselor? Are you a conscious? Are you operating from, your conscious personhood? Okay. Do you have, unconditional positive regard to your client? Are you showing empathy? Did you respect your client's, freedom? When I say client, counseling, I can sometimes interchange those two terminologies. Next, your values. Wow, this is very important, which actually we will try to explore also a little later. When we say values, mm, the goal of the counseling, the goal of the counseling is actually to help the client identify, come up with, healthy resolution to the identified problem based on the client's values. Again, go back to your A, go back to your attitude. Are you operating from your from your consciousness? You have to be very honest with yourself, no? Na, maybe I am operating from my own values, no? Baka isinusubo natin sa client natin yung values natin. Let's say, you're kind of traditional, you're kind of conservative, and your client is more, the, how do you call that? The more, I'm not sure if this is the most proper word to use. Maybe more modern, more upfront type of person, and maybe there will be prejudgment now. Oh, I don't think that's a plausible solution. I don't think that's a healthy solution that may impair you as a person. So you have to catch yourself. Be very conscious of your values. If what are you trying really to operate from is your value or your client's values. Lastly, letter E. Okay, so when we say E, it's called ethics, okay, which we will definitely talk about later on. I will be presenting some very specific ethical dilemmas. Yeah, and there are some, I think I have identified two kind of very difficult, well, for me, no, a very difficult ethical dilemma. So I encourage you to help me try to come up with the best resolution for that dilemma. Okay, so let's start with knowledge. Okay, hindi natin lalahatin yung K-save. No? I think we will just focus a little bit on the K, and then more on sa S, and then sa E. Okay, let's start with knowledge. Okay, so first one, we have 5 forces in counseling. A little bit, refresher again on the 5 forces of counseling. The first one is psychoanalytic. So this is the first wave. Okay, this is the first wave. So when we say psychoanalytic, the nature of this approach is more deterministic in nature. Okay, I mean, this approach sees the person as a product of his past. Okay, that you may this line may be very familiar to you. The child is father to the man. No, meaning your childhood experiences play very vital role in who you are right now as a person. Aside from it is deterministic, that our behavior is determined by irrational forces. So another approach will tell you that we are operating from rational forces, but psychoanalytic approach will tell us that we are, operating from irrational forces, and that we also have unconscious motivations, and um, usually it's driven by aggression, sexual desires, instincts, drives. No? And then we also have structures of personality, such as the id, the ego, the 3 structures of personality: the id, the ego, and the superego. Okay, and aside from that, when our ego is um how do you call this, somehow shaking or in danger because of perhaps some stress, some problem, a traumatic experience, maybe we're crafting or we're creating defenses, okay? Specifically known as ego defense mechanisms, or defense mechanisms, such as, what are the defense mechanisms that we're very familiar of, such as denial, rationalization. We have sour graping, sweet lemoning. So those are just some of suppression, repression. No? Those are just some of the ego defense mechanisms. So what? No, the goal of psychoanalytic approach is, number one, we're talking about we're operating from our unconscious. Okay. So when we say unconscious, what are the evidences that the unconscious is real? Hindi mo nga alam hindi mo nga alam pala yun. What is unconscious? Really, it's a really big chunk of our, for example, number one, slip of the tongue, or slip of the tongue phenomenon, okay, or psychohypnotic suggestions. what else? Materials derived from free association, okay, or from psychological tests such as projective techniques, draw a person test, sentence completion test, thematic apperception test, and yeah. So basically, those are some of the examples that unconscious is a very big part of our personality that we are not aware of. So the approach or the goal of psychoanalytic is to make the unconscious conscious. Okay, and then aside from that, you know, if you can recall, we have three structures of personality. We have the id, ego, superego. So aside from making the unconscious conscious, another goal of this therapeutic approach is to strengthen our ego. Going back to ego defense mechanisms, no? Actually, these defense mechanisms are normal. They are normal responses to stress. Okay, so one goal of this approach is to come up with healthy ego defense mechanisms. But definitely, there are some times that our ego defense mechanisms, will become harmful, detrimental, or make us, make us less in touch with our reality. So yun na. So that's why we have to come up, assist the person, have stronger ego and yeah, healthier mindset. Number two, cognitive behavioral approach. Here in cognitive, some of the keywords in cognitive behavior is that we are both action, learning, and thoughts. Okay, so for behavioral, all behaviors can be learned. So, yeah, if you're familiar with classical conditioning, operant conditioning, or yeah, observational learning, or vicarious learning, or learning from the experiences of other people, or learning from books. You don't have to experience it firsthand in order for learning to take place. And for cognitive, we have automatic thoughts. Okay? Our automatic thoughts. See, if that automatic thought is, maybe there's a mindful, or there's an awareness that if your automatic thought is that positive or not helping you achieve your goals, then maybe we can do something about that. Next, existential humanistic. So existential humanistic, if in psychoanalytic, it's more deterministic. In existential humanistic, this approach recognizes the human person's freedom, okay? The human person's freedom, that you're actually free. You are, yes, maybe, your past played a very important role on who you are now as a person. But in existential humanistic, there's a recognition that, you are responsible on the person you are now and to the person you are yet to become. This approach is actually very liberating now. Oh, we are not jailed pala. We're not caged pala on our traumatic childhood experiences, or on our needs that were not met during our childhood or our parental upbringing. So siguro in the first, in the first part of our life, siguro elementary, adolescent, until siguro college, yeah, how you behave, it could be, your parents really played a very important role. But try to recognize, you know, if you're very smart or if you're very, let's say, you're misbehaving, either you're leaning towards a positive or dun sa destructive social behavior. This time you recognize, that you can no longer put the excuse or your reasoning to how you were brought up. Just to check, am I still audible? Hindi, can somebody prompt if I am still audible or no?
Yes, ma'am, we can still hear you, pero meron pong noises. Background.
Like yung parang air.
Yes, ma'am, yes.
For a moment.
Okay, okay.
All right. How about that one? Can you confirm?
Yes, ma'am, it's all clear na.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Let me just check again. Okay. So there. So existential humanism now. And let's move on to the fourth thing, the multicultural. Wow. Okay. So this is the fourth course of counseling. So when you say multicultural, this is recognizing that all right, still cracky. Okay, how about this one? If I will try to remove it, can you confirm if it's still cracky?
Okay
From
na po,
our,
ma'am.
ayan, better than earlier.
Yes,
So I
ma'am.
go to my headset na and use the loudspeaker. Okay, so let's now move on to our multicultural. So when we say multicultural, this is recognizing that your clients came from different cultural backgrounds. Okay, that their behavior may be due to their beliefs, values that may not be congruent or not be aligned or may not agree to your culture, to your values, etc. Okay? So basically, if you will make a wrong assumption or be in a defensive mode because you failed to identify the cultural factors or the cultural background of your client, then we will not be able to protect, we will not be able to help fully as much as, your intention to help your client. So how can we combat this? Definitely get to know your client better. Okay? Get to know your client better and check whether these ideals, these behaviors that your client is operating from is actually, unusual, illegal, unethical, or maybe that person is, that person's actions actually based from his culture. Okay, maybe I can give you, an example. Mm, yung konsepto ng sapi. Yeah, yung konsepto ng sapi in, Philippine setting. If you're a counselor, who maybe does not believe with the concept of SAPI, okay, and your client really insists, no, like this and like that, and you dismiss immediately the person. Oh, you know what? I think you have, a physical problem, but definitely you have to eliminate, the physical, the medical related symptoms first before you also make a conclusion. Okay. So dismissing the client because you have different beliefs would really not be healthy or will not make a fruitful counseling relationship. Next one, social justice. This is the fifth force. And the fifth force of counseling is that it acknowledges that we have human development issues, that there is really an existence of injustice in our society. Okay, that really poverty, poverty exists, that lawlessness may really exist. If not, in your setting, but recognize that these factors exist. So actually, multicultural and social justice counseling forces are couple sila. Hindi mo sila dapat paghiwalayin na this is multicultural or this is social justice. I am operating from the social justice force, or I am operating from the multicultural force. No, actually, they should complement each other and not really parang fight or what. Okay, so basically that's it. And since we are on the fifth wave already of counseling, wow, maybe, sometime in the future, or maybe now, maybe there will be a sixth force, maybe there will be a sixth force, and maybe that sixth force, I'm not sure. Maybe it would be, an artificial intelligence kind of counseling. Wow. And wave comes, when that wave comes, you know, as counselors, as mental health advocates, we have also social work, I think, and psychology, psychometrician, and other, allied professionals in our learning session. So how can we stay relevant? How can we stay relevant as mental health advocates? Definitely, connecting to our personhood, because I think, that is something that cannot be automated. Personhood, authenticity, cannot be automated. Okay, so yeah, so that's just the first part of our slide, the knowledge. Next one. Okay, so how to become a counselor? So according to RA 9258, or an act professionalizing the practice of guidance and counseling, there are there are three. There are three qualifications. Okay, so definitely, in order for you to become a counselor, you need to have a license and a certificate of registration before you become a counselor, or before you can, do counseling. So how can you have a license? How can you have a certificate of registration as a professional counselor? These are the qualifications. Definitely you have to, take, qualify, and pass the board exam for registered guidance counselor. So these are the qualifications. You need to be a citizen of the Philippines or a foreigner with reciprocity. Next, has not been convicted of any offense. And lastly, you need to have a bachelor's degree in guidance counseling or any allied disciplines, and a master's degree in guidance and counseling. Ayun. So that's how you can become a counselor. All right, next one. So that's the uh, legal aspect, how to become a counselor. That's what the law is telling us. But now the question is, after or even actually even before you become a licensed counselor, you already have to work on this, how to become an effective counselor. Okay, I think I have identified eight tips, or areas that we need to work on. Number one, is you need to master your micro skills as a counselor. There are a lot of techniques such as CBT. No, there are a lot of approaches pala, such as CBT, SFBT, behavioral, narrative, REBT, reality, and so on and so on. No? However, you will always go back. You will always go back to your micro skills. What's my point? Before you specialize in a specific approach, before you uh, have or before you earn your certifications in hypnotherapy or in in other approaches, or gestalt, or in any other specific techniques, make sure na yung micro skills, kahit pagbali-baliktarin mo, master mo na. Okay, so what are the different micro skills? Number one is attending behavior. Okay, so what attending behavior, this is an area that you are present. You are present for your client. How can we have that micro skill of an attending behavior? Meron ditong acronym, Soler or Schobler. Okay, so you need to face your client. Okay, not the other way around, definitely. Then from time to time, you nod your head, just for your client, definitely to feel and to know na, oh, this person is here with me. This person is listening. Okay, and adopt an open posture. Okay? Hindi yung nakaganito, no? Hindi naka-close, hindi naka-4. Yan. So, siguro naka-flat sa ground yung feet mo, and then, just adopt an open posture. And then verbal following, we will talk more about that later on. And then, check your speech. Are you, is your volume very high? Is your tone angry? Or, so, or very accommodating? Next. Okay, next one, lean toward the other, but not, but not really, how do you call this? But not really very close. Okay, respect the psychological space of your client. Next one, letter E, is make eye contact. Ayan. And then definitely, last one is, just be relaxed. Just be yourself. And then another skill in counseling is definitely listening. And when we say listening, it's taking note of these three things. Linguistic, or what your client is telling you, yung words talaga niya. No? And paralinguistic. Paralinguistic are the volume, the tone, you know. And the non-verbal will be the gestures, the movements, eye contact, yun na yung non-verbal na type of listening. So these are the three kinds of, how do you call this? These are the three things that we should be watchful for. Linguistic, paralinguistic, and non-verbal. So that's just the first one, attending. Second micro skill, okay? Second micro skill is questioning. Okay? So it's asking close-ended question and open-ended question. So some open-ended question, will elicit more information. So if you wanted to know more about your client, so start with, open-ended. If you want to know very specific information, then definitely use close-ended, close-ended questions. And yung yung pacing, yung pacing ng questioning, yung pacing ng probing, no? And yung quantity ng questions, definitely, you don't want it to sound like, you don't want it to sound like you're already interrogating the person. Okay? For a moment. Mm, okay. All right. So, yeah. So, going back, you don't like, again, yung alam mo yun, pag sobrang matanong ka, magiging parang defensive si client. Oh, and then interrogation ba to? Akala ko kasi counseling, no? So you have really to be mindful. You have to have, that professional expertise to know when probing or when questioning is, still okay, the level na optimal level. Okay, next one, confrontation. So when we say confrontation, if you see discrepancies, then maybe you can confront. There's nothing wrong in confronting, or like, akala ko ba, like maybe if there are discrepancies or incongruent statements, you can directly ask the person or the client. Next one is focusing. So when we say focusing, yeah, thank you. Let me try. All right, so focusing. Okay, so when we say focusing, there are actually different kinds of focusing. Like there is an individual focus or problem focus or family focus. But basically, try to identify the specific problem of the client, no, and you focus from that. Kasi minsan ang dami-dami, no, problema ko eto, ACADS, love life, weight, body image, financial, may, so in short, ang dami, no, para na siyang salad bowl, and hindi mo na alam, para siyang buffet. Yeah, para siyang buffet, no? So ang dami, you don't know which to focus on. So yeah, focusing is trying to identify the presenting problem and having, that knowledge to sift or to filter which are, not. Next, reflections of meaning. So this refers to the belief system and meanings that underline in the person's life experiences. So you will not just look at the experience as is, but you also look at the meaning for the person. So what is the meaning of that event for the person? Like for example, let's say that person, got mad because someone, you know, someone did not say, did not return a pen, did not return a pen. So perhaps for you, ball pen lang yan, bakit very aggressive na yung reaction niya? So you have to really see, as a counselor, you really have to check on what is the underlying meaning of actually losing the pen, or yung losing the pen ba talaga yung problem niya that triggered yung amok behavior. Okay, so that's just the first one. Master your micro skill. Number 2, love learning. Okay, so just like what you're doing right now, attending to learning series, workshops, certifications, enroll yourself into, higher education, be that, masters, doctoral, postdoctoral or another master's, well, or yeah, there are a lot of free courses. There are even free certifications online. So yeah, just go ahead and uh, knowledge, go ahead and explore. You really have to know your foundations and master yung foundation, no? If you really want to become a counselor, as your career. So you have to love learning, and you have to it's a lifetime. It's a lifetime journey of learning process. And when we say learning, it's not only up here, it's not only up here. I really stand for, if learning learning is not only taking in, but also how well you can execute it. Okay, so you will not stop from listening, from ingesting, but you have to be able to apply what you will learn from this learning activity. Number three, strategy effectiveness. Okay, so let me show you. So we're down on our third way on how you can become an effective counselor. Let's just have a recap. Number one, master your micro skills. Number two, continue on learning. You know, uh, yeah, just go ahead and learn. Number three, strategy effectiveness. So look at this one. This is the four-stage developmental model formulated by or developed by Watts. So first one, exploration. If we will go back to our number two, which is love for learning, that's actually the stage one of Watts developmental model. So you need to explore. You really need to read the literature, attend webinars, attend seminars, attend certifications, workshops, and so and so. Okay? And then after exploration, you will already examine, you will already examine when I'm doing counseling, how did I do with this client to another client? Like for example, same case, maybe bullying or or um, ano pa ba? Yeah. Or, self-injurious behavior. Okay? Same same case, different client, and then, how come my approaches are also changing? Okay, so that's where examination takes place. For stage one and stage two of strategy effectiveness, you can actually have this. You can learn this from grad school with the supervision of your professors, instructors. You can learn about different approaches, theories, and so on. Examination with your supervisor or your counselor, teacher, no, you can also examine which model is effective for that particular case and which is not. Okay. For stage 3 and 4, this is kind of tricky because this is where experience will take place na, will enter. Okay, so integration. Okay, so here, after exploring, different kinds of models, then you can actually already see which approach, which technique suits you best. Which approach suits your personality best, saan yung mas inclination mo, saan yung mas na-master mo, no? And then lastly, personalization. Okay? That's already, you can already come up with your, yeah, if you can already come up with your personal technique Wow. Wow. Hmm. Stage 4, if you can already come up with your personal technique, personal approach. But here's the thing, according to Watts, if you're a new counselor, go ahead and practice mo muna, master mo muna si stage 1 and stage 2. They are discouraging eclectic technique. They are discouraging, I'll repeat that. Wow. No, they are discouraging eclectic technique. Sige, psychoanalytic ako. Tapos yung next na question ko naman, behavioral. Tapos assignment ko naman, CBT, no? Ano na, chop, 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 chop. Okay? Like getting one piece of technique from Adler, individual, di ba? And then humanistic, Rogerian, and so. Okay, so according to Watts, they are discouraging eclectic. So pag sinabi natin exploration, get to know the model as is, kung paano siya pinresent. Okay? And then, in integration and personalization, pag alam mo na si 1 and si 2, nakita mo na yung differences, saan yung effective, saan yung hindi, then that's the time that you will integrate and make it your own. That's where personalization enters. Okay, so yeah, like for example, this one. I think this is a challenge. This is a challenge for mental health professionals. We keep on borrowing. We keep on borrowing techniques, models from other countries, from foreign, and we try to fit that in our culture. Okay, so I think the challenge now is to come up with an indigenous counseling model that will really fit our culture. Okay, like for example, lambilos. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. Lambilos is, I think this is a model of counseling. Yeah, and incorporates many indigenous Filipino relate with. Okay, so lambilos actually stands for lam for lambing, B for biro, and then los for haplos or touch therapy. So yun yung common theme na most we're very, we're known for our humor, and maybe really, yung mga prompt, yung mga soft touches, would actually still be very helpful. Okay, so this is, an indigenous Filipino method or way of counseling. So hopefully in the coming years, we can come up with our own techniques, own strategies, perhaps even come up with our own model or approach. Okay, so next one, just to give you a background, last September we have released 5 health education web series, and you can we have here the link. If you would like to watch it, we have provided the link here for you. Why am I sharing this? Because the tip number 4 is self-care. Okay, I would just like to quote Miss Betty Cortes Boronia, counselor and psychologist of United Nations. To commit to self-care is to value yourself. To commit to self-care is to value our relationships. To commit to self-care is never selfish. Okay? Actually, as counselor, as mental health advocate, this is your number 1 responsibility as a professional. You need to take care of yourself. Why? You have to really be honest to yourself if you're okay or not okay. Because how can you help, another person if you need saving first? 'Di ba? And magbo-boomerang kasi. Magbo-boomerang. So whatever you throw out there, will also return to you. And later on, we will be talking about empathy poisoning. I'll repeat, empathy poisoning. So empathy poisoning is a result, of not looking after yourself, which is not only harmful for you, but it's not beneficial to your client. If you're not okay, it's not okay for the client. So being okay is actually a professional responsibility for your client to be okay. Okay. So like this, no? Empathy. So just like what we were talking about earlier, you're very familiar with empathy. Okay. So when we say empathy, it is learning how to enter your client's world. Empathy is learning to enter your client's world and staying there or living there. Wow. Okay. So how can, if you're already experiencing empathy poisoning? I will give specific example later on, but let's just explain this bucket metaphor. Okay, so when we say bucket metaphor, the goal of counseling of the counselor or the responsibility of the counselor is actually to empty your bucket, and to let your client fill in that empty bucket para mailagay niya dyan yung water niya. Okay, so what will happen if you will not empty your bucket? Okay, so pag may natirang laman yan, your water plus the client's water will mix. Matatapon, no? Lalabas yan. Okay. To use Sigmund Freud's concepts, the goal of counseling is for the client to have transference towards the counselor. Okay. And empathy poisoning is already, when there's already counter transference. Okay, so let me cite an example. So let's see if you're experiencing empathy poisoning. Like for example, after counseling session, you feel heavy. Parang ang bigat. Parang ang sakit ng ulo ko. Parang I feel sad. This is after the counseling already, ha. You have already, terminated the counseling session. And then afterwards, you feel heavy, you feel sad, ang bigat-bigat ng pakiramdam, there's already empathy poisoning. Okay? So, yeah, how then? What then can empty your bucket? No? How can we empty our bucket? Some practitioners suggest, although this is not really the rule naman, that before that counselors should also seek counseling. Okay? Kasi baka meron kang, trauma. Baka meron kang unresolved issues. Okay? And project mo sa client mo yung unresolved issues. Yun yung nasabi na may natira na water dun sa bucket. So you have to empty that bucket. So that's one. Number two, compartmentalize. You really need to compartmentalize. Like you really have to identify. You really have to consciously, bring out, that during this period of time, I am your counselor. I am a counselor. But once I exited, once I, get out from my counseling room, I'm no longer ready at home. I'm no longer a counselor. Okay, I am already, a sister, maybe a wife or a husband, roles such as, maybe, yeah, so you know the drill. So just compartmentalize, just close it. Other practitioners even have, how do you call this, rituals. They actually have kind of, they have some kind of rituals na, okay, like there's a ritual na, like, okay, there's a conscious symbolism na kapag kinlose ko na si counseling room, tapos na, hanggang doon na lang yun, hindi ko na siya dadalhin. Okay. Personally, what I do when I'm experiencing empathy poisoning, sometimes I do a hot bath, just to, kind of, ritually or symbolically removing the not so good energy in my system. Or also, you know aside from compartmentalization or doing those, personalized rituals of the five forces, the different models, the different approaches, what specific techniques are in those specific approaches. Number 7, this is very important. Build your network, especially, I see this, counselors or even some mental health advocates. Even if you're not yet in the practice, if you have plans on entering counseling career or mental health related profession, start early to build your network. Okay, why building your network is important? Okay, um, some guidance counselors in the field, minsan, you have one counselor catering to thousands of students, right? Okay. That's the reality in our Philippine setting, or one counselor in one school. Okay, so imagine that. One counselor catering to thousands of students. Recommended is 1:500, for DepEd. For college, 1:1000, But what if hindi nami-meet yung ideal number or yung counselor-counselee ratio? Okay, so build your network. Imagine you're a new guidance counselor, tapos ikaw lang mag-isa dun sa school. Paano kung, alam mo yun, paano? Anong gagawin mo? Paano kung meron kang tanong? Ano yung mga tests? Like for example, what are the tests that I can administer? Am I qualified to do this? Can I do psychotherapy? Am I doing it right? Kailangan mo ng feedback, di ba? Or what if I have this kind of case? Anong gagawin? Ano kaya yung recommend? Ano yung i-recommend nyo? Or if I have an ethical dilemma, how can I resolve this? If you don't have your network, it will be very, very, very difficult. So build your network, meet people. Where can you meet people? Join national associations, or even regional, provincial, or even in your place, if there are different organizations. Or you can also search helpful Facebook pages in maybe there's a community na catering to your area of interest. Like for example, if your interest is on family counseling, so definitely child and family. So there are people, or there are communities, there are groups, both on site, online, or even in how do you call this, in the physical world, if I may say, who can help you. So in short, build your network. Just go and search, find, yeah, and get to know these people. Another reason why you need to build your network is that you have to know the limits of your competencies. What if you see that a student, or a person has a problem, but it's not within your competency? Okay, anong gagawin mo? Tapos na, yun na lang. Hindi ko naman kaya yan, or hindi ko naman, hindi ko naman expertise yan Wala naman akong license or wala naman akong No, it doesn't end there. It's your responsibility to build your network and to refer. Refer your client to a person, to another professional who is, more competent dun sa area na outside your competency. Okay. Next one, values awareness and multicultural competence. I think we have touched these, two items earlier, just to emphasize on values awareness. Be very conscious, be very honest on whose values you're operating from. Are you operating from your client's values or yours? Yeah. And also, you really have to know your motivations for counseling. Like for example, ang galing-galing kong counselor kasi alam ko yung mga techniques na to. Okay? Ang galing-galing ko kasi alam mo yun, ang galing-galing, ang sarap sa feeling ng makatulong. Ang sarap sa feeling ng nakapagpagaan ng loob. Ang sarap sa pakiramdam yung may na-touch ka na buhay. You have, again, to catch that. I'm not saying that that's not okay. I am on neutral stance here, but you really have to you have to be honest to yourself, and you really have to be aware whose needs are you trying to meet. Whose needs are you trying to meet? Because you feel good. You feel good that you're helping. You feel good about changing people's lives, maybe. Okay. Pero baka yung need for achievement, need for recognition, need to be needed. Baka that's what's operating in you. Your need, that you have a need pala to be needed. Right? Or there's a need for recognition, social acceptance. Yeah, again, I'm not saying na, feeling happy that you help someone is not okay. My point is, as long as you're meeting your client's needs before your personal needs, then that's okay. And then multicultural competence. Okay, so what if one condition here in multicultural competence is language? What can we do? Like, yung client mo hindi marunong magtagalog. Tapos ikaw, hindi ka naman marunong, let's say, mag-English. Yung language niya English, yung language mo Filipino. Okay? So, anong gagawin natin doon? That's actually one factor then on multicultural competence. Okay? So maybe you can definitely you can refer, or if there's a consent from your client, then maybe a trustworthy interpreter may also be with you during the session. Yan. Okay, so stages of counseling, just an overview lang. So the first one is beginning. This is building of rapport, getting to know your client, building that positive atmosphere, welcoming atmosphere. And then next one is identify the problem, just like what I said earlier. Minsan ang dami-dami na pagpupunta yan, kasi ang dami na niyang naikwento, no? Ayun. Pero just you and the client try to identify what really is the problem. And then structure the helping relationship. Just make the client understand, no? How is the structure of your counseling? Maybe you can also say in the beginning na, okay, from this, I think we will be needing these kinds of sessions, and so, and maybe we can limit our okay, and then maybe we can limit um our session into 15 to 20 minutes if that's okay with you. And by the way, in initiation and entry building of rapport, it's also very important that you already inform, no, the client regarding the relationship, the confidentiality, and the limits or exceptions to confidentiality. And the next one is exploration of the problem. So that's when maybe you can talk more about that. Like for example, the presenting problem. Minsan ang sabihin ng client, ang dami kong bagsak, hindi ako makapag-concentrate sa module. Yung teacher ko, hindi ganyan-ganyan. Yung connection ko, ganito-ganyan. Yung parents ko, daming sinasabi na gawin sa bahay habang nag-online counseling, or sabi, online class. Sabi ng nanay ko, I'm spending too much time sa laptop, I'm not doing anything. So, wow. And then hindi ako nakakatulog. Wow, okay. So, medyo, medyo salad na, no? Ayan. So, try to identify, talaga? Ano yung core ng problem? Because the theme there is what, if you will try to see, the theme there is time management, no? But you as a counselor definitely will not feed that to your client. You know what, I think your problem is time management because you're spending too much in this one area and you're not, definitely no. That's definitely, that's unless you're a very directive counselor. Okay, so yeah, let the client clarify it from the client. Do you think, there's also a challenge in terms of, managing, dividing your time, or maybe what activities kaya can you lessen so that you will have more time for these activities of yours? Para maybe you can balance then the demands of your establish time management nga, no? And then maybe I will really identify yung mga unhealthy, not really unhealthy, unhelpful activities that's contributing to my workload. Okay, and then maybe you can say that as maybe you can give that as an assignment. Okay, and on our next session, maybe we can, talk about how helpful removing those unhelpful activities were. Okay, and how did you do afterwards? Dealing with resistance. Wow, this is kind of difficult. Dealing with resistance, like for example, kamusta ka na? Bakit ka pala nagpunta dito for counseling? Okay. Tell me about your hobbies. Okay, what seems to be the problem? Okay. Wow, okay. So how are you going to deal with that resistance? What will you do as a counselor? Terminate. Terminate. Oh, I think, you're not ready. Yeah, actually, you can do that. You can also do that. But definitely try to build rapport, Also try to be comfortable with silence. If there's silence and, it's also okay. Try to be comfortable. You don't really need to fill in the silence immediately. Respect, value, appreciate, and know the value of silence in the counseling relationship too. Try to build rapport, improve your techniques. Maybe kung ayaw niya ng Q&A, maybe you can do games. Yeah, you can try games. Like, you can do, ang tawag dito, yung hinihila. Anong tawag dun? Kalimutan ko na. Yung blocks. Yeah, but anyway. Or game of the generals. No? Or if you know, chess or snakes and ladders. Or bato-bato pick, if you don't have those kinds of games readily available in your office, then you can be creative. You can be creative in breaking the ice. Okay, but definitely you will not just play. No, so maybe while you're playing, you're already asking questions, or there are also actually counselor games, wherein these are, I don't have a picture of it, but these are, like, for example, cards, no, but once you look at the card, it's not just a regular card, but there are some icebreaker questions. Yeah, getting to know questions. So it's the same thing, siguro pag nagbato-bato, kung sino natalo, maybe can give, can answer a question, mga ganon. Alright? So, but kung na-try mo na lahat, ayaw pa rin, ayaw talaga, no? Wala talaga, hindi nagko-connect. Then, as long as you've tried everything, and you all, pwede mo din i-refer, or kung if you can try, maybe you can terminate muna. You can terminate muna, and then maybe another session na lang, no? Kung kailan na siya ready. Let me say that again. Kung kailan siya ready. Readiness is very important. Readiness is very important. If the client is reluctant, if the client, does not want to undergo counseling, you cannot force the person. You cannot really force the person. If the person doesn't want to change, he will not change. So if that person, actually volunteered for counseling, that's a very good indicator, because there's really, a recognition na, oh, I want to change. And then termination, you terminate it. But hindi naman bigla-bigla, no? You can also say, especially kung multiple sessions, you can also say, oh, okay, terminate it gently. Hindi naman yung abruptly, okay, last day na natin to, ha? Kasi you're in a relationship, di ba? Yeah, you're in a relationship, eh. So you have to let the client know, I actually see a pattern of improvement already. How about you? Ganun. And then maybe, okay, since, you both agreed, and the goal naman of counseling is not dependence of the client to the counselor, but actually for the client to flourish and to, ang tawag dito, to adopt a behavior of independence. Then once that goal is met, then you can say, this, we will have a couple more sessions, but on our last session, we will be like this and like that. Okay, and then you can still, after terminating the counseling session, you can still do follow-ups naman. Okay. Code of ethics. Okay, so there are other articles, but we will on the code of ethics, but we will focus on relationship with counseling. So we're done with the basic counseling skills. Let's now proceed sa code of ethics. So this is the last part, no, of K-Save ethics. Okay. So first one is relationship with counseling. We will also provide the link. Yeah. So you can actually read on the whole ethical standards. So let's see. Yeah. So for relationship with counseling, ito yung mga kailangan natin i-observe as a counselor. Okay. But in a nutshell, ito yung sinasabi ng ethical standards natin na client's right. Number one is informed consent. Nowadays, since we're not doing face-to-face counseling, we're doing telecounseling or distance counseling, either via video call, chat, text, or call. Before we do that, we have an electronic informed consent with their e-signature. So yeah, you have to ensure, that the client knows, the relationship knows about the client's rights and responsibilities, knows about the confidentiality, that everything will be kept confidential, except for these incidents. Number one, you also need to include this in your informed consent, that our session is confidential, except if your client has an intention to hurt himself or other people, or if that client requests for information, legal purposes, or for supervision and other count uh, clerical assistants who may have access. And then what else? Yeah. What else? So if the client is less than 18 years of age, if a client is a minor, so pwedeng i-disclose sa parent or guardian. So going back, with or without consent ng client, if these instances are present, you can disclose. It's actually your obligation. It's actually your obligation to disclose. Okay, so we have very limited time. Our time is almost up. So definitely we would also like to accommodate some questions from our dear participants. Okay, so last few slides before we go on our question and answer portion. Okay, so first one, yeah, please answer, no? Okay, let's see. During a counseling session, a 42-year-old male client threatens suicide. So what should you do? A, keep it a secret as the client is not a minor. B, call the state child abuse neglect hotline even though he is an adult. Call his wife and mention that a serious problem exists, but be very careful not to discuss the issue of suicide, since to do so would violate the client's confidentiality. Letter D, contact his wife and advise her of possible suicide precaution. Okay, let's see. So what's your answer? Yeah, let me just check yung chat box. Oh no, I can't see the chat box pala. Okay, so what's your answer? D. Okay, so the correct answer is letter D. Okay. Next one, a 39-year-old female secretary you are seeing in your assertiveness training group reveals that she's plotting to shoot her husband. Based on the Tarasov case, you should A, warn the husband, B, keep it confidential because of an assertiveness training group is decidedly not the same as one-to-one counseling. C, make a police report in the city in which the husband resides, or D, tell a supervisor, administrator, or board member if one exists, but do not contact her husband. Okay, so what's your answer? Okay, what's your answer? Let's see. Okay, so ang sagot po ay, okay, correct. So Tarasov. So when we say Tarasov, it is actually informing that person, yung another person who is a threat. Okay? So correct, letter A. All right. So by the way, I got these sample questions from Encyclopedia of counselors. Anyway, I have also attached the references naman on the last slide, so you can also check it out if you would like to, take the board exam, practice on the items. Okay, so next one. Wow, ito wala ng choices. Ito wala ng choices. This is kind of, ano na siya, essay format. Okay, so let's see kung anong gagawin niyo. No? Sample ethical dilemmas. First one. A client was terminated as a fundraiser for an environmental nonprofit. At first, he said it was because I didn't make my number, but on probing, he admitted that he lied to prospects, overstating what the nonprofit had previously accomplished. Now he says he'd like to take a shot at making a living at a long shot career, hosting a TV, radio, or podcast show on social change. I want to be a liberal Jordan Peterson, a renowned clinical psychologist from Canada. Given his track record, reasoning, and communication skills, it's clear to you that he's facing lottery odds. What do you say or ask? Okay, so meron siyang pangarap and lottery chance yung gusto niya na career. As a counselor, what are you going to tell this person? Okay, anyone from, our dear participants? Sasabihin mo ba? Are you going to be encouraging? Or yeah, let's say, are you going to encourage him? No, you can do that. Yeah, the only limitation to your dream is, your mind on what you say to yourself. Or will you be more realistic na, I think uh, it's like shooting, that's like wishing in a shooting star, almost impossible to happen. Okay. All right, so no answer so far. Okay, let's proceed to the second sample ethical dilemma. Okay, maybe, we will try to answer this a little later by not answering it, but by actually seeing how it should be answered when we experience such. Okay, so number 2, ethical dilemma. Okay. You tell them that before he selects a career, it would be wise to spend a session or two plus some homework to explore. He says, I don't need to pay you for that. I can just use my nextmove.org. You sense he's not self-efficacious enough to do that well enough on his own, but you don't want to unduly pressure him into paying you to work with him on the exploration. So what are you going to do? Ayaw niyang magbayad. Okay? Are you going to, give it for free? Are you going to do the counseling for free? Or are you going to, refer him to another person who may be doing, pro bono services for public services. Okay? Or you will let him use mynextmove.org. Okay, so again, this is going back to your values and attitude, as a counselor. Diba? This is not actually just a simple ethical dilemma. This is already a question of, what is your value? What's your values? What's your attitude towards these kinds of situations? Okay. And lastly, how to make ethical decisions. So, hindi lang pala siya, basta A, B, C, D, E. It's not only multiple choice, but these are the different steps just for us to see. Yeah, here. Okay, so this is a sample ethical decision. Okay, ethical decision making. So what you need to do definitely when you will encounter an ethical dilemma. So number 1, you need to identify the problem. What is the ethical dilemma? And then check on the different ethical codes. We have yung PGCA, we also have yung ACA that could be your reference. And then number 3, step 3 is determine nature and dimensions of dilemma, and then generate possible courses of action. And then evaluate mo yung napili mo na course of action. And then lastly, implement. You need to implement your course of action. But definitely before you do that, you, aside from checking, the the code of ethics, you can also check on your supervisor. You can also check on your colleagues. That's why it's very important to build your network, right? So you can consult with other professionals, more experienced professionals. Baka kasi na-encounter na nila yung similar case na ngayon mo lang na-encounter. So there. So lastly, as our closing, I would just like to share to you this line. Now, know all the theories, master all the techniques, but as you touch a human soul, be just another human soul. Okay, so thank you so much for being with us in our community. But before we end, do we have any questions from our participants, both from from the Zoom and from our Facebook?
Okay, so thank you, Ma'am Bev. Yes, we're now going to begin answering the questions submitted during today's presentation. As a reminder, you can still submit questions through the chat box of our Zoom meeting or in the comment section via FB Live. So our first question is from Renz M. So, good day po. I want to be enlightened lang po. I am currently working po here at LGU of Pura as Gender and Development Coordinator. By the way po, I am a licensed psychometrician. I want to share lang po my dilemma here at our municipality. Am I allowed po ba to counsel people who are experiencing mental health related issues? Sa akin po kasi nire-refer ng aming MSWD officer and RHU, especially wala na pong ibang mental health professionals dito po sa LGU namin, yung mga tao pong nagsisik ng help. I know naman po the limitations of my profession.
Okay, so going back, just be honest with yourself. Is it within your competency? Not only educational level, not only professional level, but also training, training wise. Are you trained? Are you trained to conduct that, that, are you trained? Are you, how do you call this? Yeah, like, do you have the the basic or the foundation competencies to do counseling? Okay, so if you're very much aware of the limitations of your profession, which I think if you're a registered psychometrician, you can do, you can do, um, administer, score, interpret psychological tests under the supervision of a psychologist. So if you do not have a supervisor, then definitely that's a big no-no. Okay. So what can you do? Go back, to, go back to our key points. Build your network. So definitely you can do naman the intake interview. If you can do psychological first aid, you can do those things. But if you think that it's already outside your trade, but make sure meron kang training on those areas, no? And then if it's already outside your competency, build your network as early as now, and yeah, refer to other professionals. So I hope that's helpful.
Okay, second question po from Alvin De La Paz. Is it advisable to do counseling to people we are familiar or close with. As counselors, of course, we are very eager to help them. We give priority. But is there negative impact or implications?
Yeah, actually, wait lang. Hmm. I have not screenshot it. Maybe I can, I can in in our in our PGCA Code of Ethics for counselors, I have not seen I'm not sure if if I have not read really much of the Code of Ethics in PGCA Code of Ethics for counselors. But I have not seen an excerpt on that. However, for for ACA, American Counseling Association Code of Ethics, there's a section there for friends or family that we are prohibited, we are prohibited from engaging in counseling relationships with friends or family members with whom they have an inability to remain objective. Okay, so the short answer in ACA Code of Ethics, we are prohibited to counsel friends and family members. However, you know, however, what if, what if, ikaw lang yung available na counselor? What if, during our time, we're in this kind of, how do you call this, uncold for situation. Walang internet, so you cannot refer, in a helpline or other psychological services. Walang money, to support yung psychological needs ng family member, a cousin of yours, a tita, or or an uncle, or your friend. What will you do? Diba? It's like this. It's like you're in a swimming pool and there's a lifeguard and someone is drowning. Maybe you're also a lifeguard, but from another, resort. So you have the training. You have the training. But since, another person is responsible to do that, does it mean that you're not going to save that drowning person? You're the nearest person available. The same thing, you're the closest person available. I'm not saying na go ahead, and counsel your friends and families, employing these basic counseling techniques, your skills, your micro and macro skills, no? But that again is an ethical dilemma. So what should you do? What should you do? Consult your colleagues, consult your supervisor, try to weigh the consequences. Try to weigh the consequences, no? Ano yung mas helpful? Ano yung mas less? Ano yung mas less harmful dun sa client, which is your family? Okay, but actually, yeah, sometimes if you're a sister, if you're a mother, if you're a father, sometimes you don't need to be a counselor. You just have to be yourself. Diba? Just be a sister, just be a mom to your cousin, to your anak, to your family member or your friend. Yeah, and which is also one core competency of a guidance counselor. Be real, authenticity, genuineness. Yeah, be yourself. So yeah, I hope that's also, a helpful answer for you.
Ayan. Okay, so sa mga friends or relatives, you just have to be there for them as ikaw, di ba, bilang ikaw. Ayun, so another question from Bam Smith. How would you deal with a consistently disruptive student?
Paano ang disruptive? Yung nag-violate talaga ng handbook. Ganon. guidelines, ganyan. Well, going back, um, go back to the go back to your counseling, to your basic counseling skills, get to know the client better. Are there any, problems? However, kahit meron siyang problema, as counselors, you're there, you're there to help the person cope, but we're not there to take away the responsibility from that student. If that student violated something, yeah, that person, that student can be referred to you for counseling and just do what you do as a counselor. But definitely, we will not take away the responsibility, especially if it's stipulated in your handbook na merong um, kaakibat na, how do you call this, na I'm not very sure with the word, but let's say, penalty, or yeah, punishment, so if there is such, or sanction, yeah, sanction, okay, yeah, so just be there as a counselor. Try, maybe you can, try to help, just be with the person, try to make that person realize, operating from his values, getting to know bakit ka ba ano ba yung reason, no? And try to come up, both of you, try to come up with healthier options. So kung mahilig siyang manuntok, baka naman pwedeng, di ba, physical activities, like, that will really implant self-discipline, respect sa kanya, like karate, mixed martial arts, or sports, mga ganun. Okay, but again, the point is, we will not take away, the responsibility if a violation is committed, and if there's a sanction. Okay.
Okay, so another question, ma'am. From Cortisol, yun yung pangalan niya sa Facebook. So I don't know if it is possible, registered psychometrician here, but can you ask the clients about other options to pay you with the services that you have rendered?
If you're a private practitioner, no, supposing you're a private practitioner, but if you're, like us, you're connected to a certain, institution, definitely we have a no gift policy. So actually depende, depende sa item. It's also in the ethical standards. Depende sa significance nung item, depende sa laki nung item. So it's still up to you to accept that, to, really see kung hindi naman siya, how do you call this, very like gift giving, okay lang siya, depende sa values, as long as it's still very helpful sa counseling session. Okay? So in terms naman ng, kunwari, yung bayad, no, yung fees mo talaga as a private practitioner. So when I say gift giving, you're in a counseling session, no, can you accept a gift from a client? Yes, you can, as long as very minimal lang siya, and it's actually a helpful, a helpful way for to improve your counseling session. Like for example, that client was, would like to give you a keychain, because she thought of you while she was in travel. So since relatively it's kind of, a simple, and baka alam mo yun, maybe she will feel bad, she will feel but for very big naman na she's giving you cell phone, di ba, mga ganyan, or yeah, so it's no longer ethical to accept those kinds of gifts. In terms of your private practice, if you're private, practicing in private, it's up to you, no? It's up to you to set your rate. If you are to accept tokens, or, instead of kunwari, your usual rate of this no? So instead of that, pwedeng ano, pwedeng in kind. Yeah, you can consider that's still you're still operating from, go back to your case save from your attitude and your values. Okay? Sige, next question po. Yeah, I hope that's also, a helpful answer.
Okay, next question, ma'am. I think this is the last from Yani Albino Mercader. Any advices how to advocate mental health knowing na super busy ang mga students sa ACADS?
Ah. Hmm. Okay. Wow. Hmm. Ang tawag dito, um, wow, how can we advocate? We should incorporate it in our classes. Yeah, we should incorporate it in our classes. It should not be, a separate activity, just like math, science, mental health, but we should actually incorporate it, in our classes. So the first thing that you can actually do is maybe you can tie up with your, administrators, to your faculty, work on your syllabus or your study guides or your study plan. No, you already incorporated. Now maybe, oh, you can do 2 minutes of breathing exercises before you start a class and after you end each class. As simple as that. 2 minutes beginning, 2 minutes before you end the class. Then yeah, you can do that. Or a simple, a simple catching up. You really don't have to do, how do you call this, uh, a very exhaustive training webinar, but it's make mental health a way of life in your institution. Yeah, so there are a lot of activities naman that you can do on that, like, um, mindfulness for one, mindfulness in the classroom. Yeah, so that's one thing that I can share to you.
Ayun. So, thank you, ma'am. Siguro, super last question na. And I think this is everybody's question. Tinatanong nila if are we going to receive the slides after the workshop?
Yeah, sure. Yes po. We will just see how we can upload this perhaps in a Google Drive. Tapos we will share the link on our official Facebook page. Just follow our, page, and yeah, yun po. Definitely, we will share this to you. And we will also be sharing. This is a recorded video. We will also upload this in our YouTube account. Yeah, so you have all the references and resources. And in case you have clarification or workshop requests, you may feel free to reach out to us via Facebook or on our email. We have reached out to you via our official email naman. So if you have, any training needs, training requests, workshop requests, or any expertise that you think you may need from Pangasinan State University, you are very much welcome. We will be very happy to help you on that.
Okay, so it looks like we've answered all of their questions. Ma'am Bev, is there anything else you wanted to cover before a wrap up?
None naman for me. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, so thank you again, Ma'am Beverly Fernandez, and thank you everyone for attending today's online workshop entitled Basic Counseling Skills and Ethical Standards. So I hope everyone learned a lot from this because I surely did. If you have any other questions, just like what Ma'am Bev said earlier, please feel free to contact us or to reach out to us. And before you leave, kindly fill out the evaluation form. Okay, the evaluation form in the link provided in the chat box here in our Zoom meeting, and it will also be indicated in the caption of our Facebook Live later. Okay, so we would appreciate if you would complete that and give your feedback. And after filling out, you will receive an e-certificate within 24 to 48 hours through the email address that you have provided. Okay, so again, on behalf of Pangasinan State University Admission and Guidance Office and our organizers and facilitators, thank you for joining us today and have a great day ahead.